Hi everybody, I'm Gwendolyn Sterk of Sterk Family Law, and I have the privilege to be with Mary Beth Walter today. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Mary Beth and I have known each other for many, many years. She's been a special education teacher. She also has extensive experience in mental health law and is a school advocate. And today we're going to talk about early intervention. Now, we have to be very clear about a word early intervention because there could be differences of interpretation. Fair?
Yes.
So early intervention from our perspective as attorneys is those services that a child receives up until age 3, and then the child would enter into the school system perhaps with an IEP and then get the transition to a preschool program that would be governed by federal law and by state law as it applies it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we have seen an increase or an uptick in early intervention for that age group up to age 3.
Okay.
And so I really would like you to address the importance of that and why you think that addressing a student's needs or a child's needs before age 3 is important to get them prepared for school.
Well, I think that the earlier you can put a child with support on the track that developmentally works, the easier it is for that child to be successful in life, the less stressful on the parent,
Okay.
and the better odds of being successful as they age.
Got it. Now, it's my understanding that for the early intervention program up to age 3, there's generally some county services and you would go by county to get those services. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in general, the person who's going to help you navigate or get this started would really be your pediatrician.
Yes.
So what should a parent be talking to their pediatrician about if they see something?
Well, physically, I think there's probably 3 things. For instance, if you clap, at some point before the age of 1, is the child following the sound?
Okay.
Because that could have hearing loss. It could be as simple as clogged ears. But,
Okay.
it's worth being looked at. Is the child able to track after about 6 months? Otherwise, I'd ask the pediatrician. My motto always is, I'm paying the pediatrician or any doctor or any service to tell me that thank you for the concern, but there is no fear at that point.
Right.
So there's never, ever, ever a wrong question when it concerns your child, I don't think.
Right.
A third one would be the grasping. That's important. Can the child at some point pull themselves up? Can they walk? Crawling, some kids do, some kids just start to walk and then crawl later.
Right.
So that's not, but are they getting those fine and gross motor skills? If you have any questions, I would see the pediatrician. Also, everyone's human. And I also think that if you're uncomfortable with what the pediatrician has said, I also think you can ask to be referred for a second opinion. Because the earlier you can give a support to a human being, I think, the better off they are, the parent is, and we as a society are.
Absolutely. And so also, you take like speech therapy. If a child is speaking and then maybe they regress and no longer communicate, look, it's true. Every child might develop a little differently. I may have walked later than you walked, but that doesn't mean that I had a delay in that area. But on the flip side of it, there are some concerns, and if a pediatrician is aware of it, the pediatrician can then give the appropriate referral.
Yes, and the other interesting point is sometimes a child can progress developmentally, but there's a trauma that has occurred. Whether it's seen, unseen, it doesn't matter. If there's a question, that would be your first resource, and I think that you should feel comfortable with asking. And even if the person says no, you've asked, you need your answers.
And then if you get referred to early intervention, your insurance can cover it, or sometimes there can be state programs that can cover the cost of those early therapies.
Yes.
And those therapies can occur in your home oftentimes,
Yes.
or they can occur at a facility that you might bring that child to.
Yes.
And so I think that that's what the other factor is that parents are worried about the cost. They think the child's too young. Oh, we'll just wait until we look at an early program. But we can start addressing those needs earlier on.
Yes.
And I think that parents going through a divorce sometimes have the difficulty with accepting it, or they don't understand what's available.
I think you're absolutely correct. And sometimes, too, it's a guilt. Did I do something within myself or within the genes that I provided? And yet, every child deserves to be nurtured to to the excess of their potential.
Right. And I think that's what's important. So getting your child help early on, once you contact the early intervention and get the referral, then they'll come out and do an evaluation first before they render the services, correct?
Yes.
And so then at the end of early intervention at age 3, then they'll refer the child to the school, and we've already talked about IEP and 504 accommodations, and it's at that point that then it's early intervention, but in the school system.
Yes. And what's interesting too with that, something I learned, is usually, parents will start at 3, but sometimes let's say the parent says till 4 or 5. It doesn't matter. At any point after 3, if you've got a question before they're eligible for kindergarten, you write the school district and you request an evaluation.
And I think that's important to know, because I think when the school will evaluate at age 3, you're right, parents need to seek out that help. They don't, after that age, have to even have a referral for early intervention. They can go directly to the school system. And again, that's a federal right of a child.
It is. In special education, you are entitled to educational services between the ages of 3 and until the day before you turn 22.
Right. And sometimes people go to early intervention and a child grows out of the problem, and then sometimes it's an indication that there's something going on further, but why not take that opportunity to seek the help?
And it also, a lot of times, will provide tools that the parent can implement in the home.
That's right. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys, and I hope that you're not afraid of early intervention. It's a good program to look into. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.